All right, we move on to Immortals. Now, I asked you to put this one on here, and I'm going to tell you why. Hello, everybody. We are the Rob and Germ Show. I'm Rob. He's Germ. How are we doing today, my friend?
Doing good, man. We got some crazy news to talk about, and that's what I need right now, to get away from all this world stuff. Let's go to the off season.
Let's just accept that we're bad and that we're just gonna enjoy the domestic scene, I guess, for a little while longer. Hopefully.
The off season has started.
It truly has. And with that, the only person that you're gonna see today is Bjergsen. The news coming out that he is likely to be leaving Team Liquid, and in some cases has already left Team Liquid. I don't know what your sources are telling you, Germ, but mine are telling me some very interesting things about where this man might go, and that's what we're going to talk about today without actually leaking anything. Sorry,
I'm going to show you some pictures.
That ain't happening, but maybe you can discern it based on the conversation that we have. I don't know. Let us know in the comment section below, by the way, which place do you think is most likely for Bjergsen to go? Which one is most likely, or least likely, from all the teams that we give you guys? I would love to know, and I'm sure Jerem would too. I mean, he goes back and he comments back to you guys. I mean, very dedicated man over here. So.
I would never do that.
I do. I just get technological problems constantly, apparently. So... it's all right, though. We're able to record this video, and that's what matters. And we're going to start with Bjerg going to 100 Thieves. Now, one of the things I'm going to add to this, Germ, is on a scale from 1 to 10, how likely do we think this move is going to be? Okay. And I will let you start. We'll talk about it a little bit, and then I think we'll give our ratings at the end. So what do you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, when I first heard that he was even gonna be available, I'm instantly like, I'm pulling up the LEC and the LTS, and my eyes are going through the list. And to me, this makes some of the most sense, because I think that one of the reasons that Bjergsen's probably just leaving Team Liquid in general is, they're maybe cutting back spending, they're maybe rebuilding, stuff like that. He said that he went to Team Liquid in the first place because they had this insane roster. I think he wants to play on a team that's trying to win now. He's not at a stage in his career where he's trying to win in 3 years or anything like that. 100 Thieves seems to probably also want to win now, also have some amount of money, some amount of, pieces to build around him. And they're probably going to have a mid lane position open, which is also a prerequisite to getting Bjergsen also. So right off the bat, this one really stood out to me. And Bjergsen, brand huge, good with brands and sponsors and stuff. 100 Thieves, good with brand sponsorships. I think it makes sense on a lot of different fronts. So I think it could be cool. I think this would be a fun one.
Yeah, I will be honest with you. Even just in the midst of this conversation, my opinion of it has changed a little bit. The one thing that I do think is very interesting is the whole Papa Smithy thing with Spica. Would they be willing to drop, just restart and have it be someday Spica, Bjergsen, that kind of a thing? I think if they were to go that angle, potentially, right, making the NA super team kind of a thing more, with players who've actually played together and found success, maybe even, that could be interesting to me. I will say this, yes, is Bjergsen good with brands? No doubt about it. Is 100 Thieves, or are 100 Thieves good with their players and helping their brand? Yes. But in this situation, I don't know, because it doesn't feel like they've tried to really, brand out any of their current players. And I don't know, there's that split for me, that chasm for me, where it's either they're going to go hard on Bjerg's brand, or they're just going to kind of let him be. And yeah, I feel like if they tried to pitch to him that they were going to go too hard on the brand, I think he might choose somewhere else. And if not, then because I still think he likes to be kind of the quieter leader type person. So I don't know. I struggle with this one. I'm personally going to say this one is a 7 to me out of 10 in terms of likelihood. It's definitely they're definitely one of my favorites to get him. I just don't know that they mesh, especially with some of the other options out there.
Yeah, I think this one to me is probably like an 8. I do think the Spiga stuff could be really interesting as well, because then, one of the concerns with Bjergsen is like, oh, he's esports older or whatever. But like if you get Spiga too, then you're getting some younger talent, that type of stuff. Yeah, as far as I'm not braining the team this year, I think it is weird. I wish they went a little harder on their social media and content and stuff. But at the same time, when you got a team that's losing to the Oysters, maybe you're trying to hide them a little bit.
Fly, Oysters. All right, next team here. CloudNine. Can you imagine?
That's one of the reasons why I even throw this in, like just that story. I mean, that's just like perfect of him replacing Jensen. The whole rivalry in the beginning, and then replacing him on TL, and then replacing him on C9. Like part of me just needs that to happen.
I mean, the sad thing is like, I do think that Bjerg would be performing better than Jensen right now at Worlds, but the crazy part is Jensen was so good in the latter parts of the playoffs that it was like, what is really going on with him? I think Jensen's a little bit older than Bjerg as well, which may be an influence in it, but I don't know that Bjerg could ever bring himself to do this. I don't know, because was Jack wasn't still with TSM when Bjerg came over, I don't think, was he?
I want to say no, but I am not sure.
I'd like to check on that, because I'm sure
That's
Jack...
gonna change your score?
Yeah, honestly, it probably would, because I do think that Jack probably has a pretty good relationship with Bjerg. And I would have to think that he would be very interested in Bjergsen, honestly.
And we do know from what we've heard, and I believe Jack has even said this as well, is that they did talk last offseason. There was some, we don't know how far that went or whatever, but there was some discussion. So it's not like totally,
Yeah, and so that's where for me, I don't think this is a bad option by any means, but this is like a 5 or a 6 for me max. I just, there's a lot of complications, and again, I think there's one team that we're going to talk about that I think has a pretty good pool for him right now, so yeah, we'll have to see on that one.
Yeah, I think this is like a 4, maybe even a 3. I think it would be funny. I don't think C9's going to do this. I don't think they're going to do Jensen like that, especially after bringing him back. He wasn't great during the regular season, and I'm not even saying it's like just because of his play. I mean, they did win a title. They did get to Worlds. He's not doing great and stuff like that. But also, hey, Bjergsen didn't even make it to Worlds. Like, Bjergsen didn't win a title this year. And I don't think it's because of his individual play, but I just think, I think the fans would be mad. I don't think C9 would just do that. And then would Bjergsen even want to? I think Bjergsen probably would want to, because I think the C9 team could be decent next year with some of the moves they make. But yeah, I think this is pretty unlikely, at least in my opinion.
I will say this, the reason why mine's a little bit higher is I think the draw to play with Fudge, Blabber, and Berserker is pretty strong. And if you have a team of them plus Bjergsen, who I still think is better generally than Jensen and a little bit younger, I think then you can go out and get whoever the hell you want and support, because you technically have 3 NA players at that point. Like, I don't know. That would be a pretty good team, but we'll have to see on that one. Yeah, moving on here. All right, TSM. Wide Bjerg here on this picture, but and that's my fault. I kind of spread them out a little more than I thought. Yeah, but so yeah, I will be honest with you. This feels very likely to me at this point. I think he still owns part of the team, I believe. I think he had to put his shares into a holding whatever. I don't know. I think the only team, in my mind, the only team that he would for sure go to over TSM, if they're able to mend that relationship again, which I think they can, would be Evil Geniuses, and they're not getting rid of JoJo Pew, right? So, I think we're already seeing it. There's a pretty drastic drop between 1 and 2, and if neither of us feel like it's going to be C9, this option feels the most likely to me. I think TSM would chill out for him personally to bring him back, because it was a rough year. And can you imagine if TSM say, hey, we went through this horrific year, and by the way, TSM fans, Bjerg is back. that just feels like a really good opportunity to give this team some new life again. Allow them to not have to search for the new Bjergsen. He clearly wants to play again. And I honestly think it would also give them a chance to sign Spica. And if that's the case, I think if you pick Solo or Sol, whoever you want, plus Spica, Bjerg, hopefully, pretty good import AD carry, and Chime, I think you got a pretty good team there. And you may not even have to spend a whole ton of money to do it. So I'll give my rating here after you talk.
Yeah, I was very curious to hear what you were going to say. I don't know. To me, this seems like it should be unlikely just based off everything that TSM's done, in terms of not necessarily being as aggressive, not necessarily spending as much money, from some of the things I've heard about how they went about getting certain players and stuff like that, from what Spica's saying about them offering him like 100,000 more than he was making last year or whatever, which obviously we don't know what his contract was before, but I assume probably on the lower side, or what he would assume was on the lower side of what he maybe should be or could be making. I do think that it doesn't necessarily matter as much to Bjergsen, because he takes me to be a person who would probably take a pay cut to be in the right situation. Yeah, maybe so. I mean, he's done well for himself, and I think he wants to win ultimately, and I don't think he'd be coming back to play if it wasn't like to win or anything like that. I do wonder. This is hard for me because it would really depend on how strong of a lineup TSM is able to put together. And like my first thought is, hey, TSM's probably not going to be that strong next year. So it bumps it down for me. But if they, all of a sudden are like, oh, we're going to get this guy, and this guy, and this guy, I think it would make a ton of sense. To me, this one is, I don't know. It would be weird to me. I think it's not, I think I have it above Cloud9, but not super high up.
So you got him at like a 5 then?
Yeah, I was gonna say a 5 or 6, but probably a 5.
I will tell you the only 100% advantage that TSM currently has over every other team is they can always offer him more ownership of the team, which is extraordinarily valuable. That trumps just about any contract that they're gonna offer him, to be completely honest with you. So that puts it up for me. I would put this as my first 8 or 9, actually. I really do think that there is a decent chance that this happens. This is not leaks or rumors on him, by the way. I'm just going to put that out there. I've been more hearing about where he is potentially not going. But I do think, in my mind, this one makes the most sense. I just think there's a history there. He went to TL. It didn't work. I think with the new management in place and all of the old bad stuff kind of getting pushed out, this gives him a chance. We'll see, though. Again, I don't know how much they're going to have to spend. I don't know if they would be willing to give him more percentages of the company as well to bring him back, but it would help the brand pretty immensely if they brought Bjergsen back. And I do think TSM Bjergsen would also help the LCS pretty substantially as well. So we'll have to see. We move on, though, to another LCS option, CLG. Now, before, I'll let you go first. I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah, no, I think this is rather unlikely, but I think it would be interesting and funny, especially because CLG did surprise a lot of people in a good way this year. They are, I assume, going to be getting, or hopefully going to be getting more aggressive in the offseason and stuff now that they maybe actually have a base of players to build off of, and it seems like they want to rise to prominence again. They want to do stuff, and I think to get to that next level, you're gonna have to get some kind of big splashy signing. I think you can have a bunch of young players or upcoming players or whatever, but I think there's a ceiling on that. I think you need the guy on our team or whatever. So I hope they go out and make some big acquisition. I think Bjergsen would be a fun one on this team, and I think this team was good last year. I think they're going to be better next year. I think they'd be even better with him on it. But overall, Palafox was pretty good too, so I don't even know if it makes a ton of sense, and I don't know if Bjergsen would even go, but I think it's a fun. I like that the picture exists in the world now, at least.
It is out there. You can screenshot this. Here's what I will say. I think CLG are pretty committed to the 5 guys they have. I think if they were going to make a move, it would probably be in the top lane, to be honest with you. I think the rest of the guys, the contracts Palafox combo was so strong. at the end of last year. Like they just really, it felt like they got each other, which was good. I mean, they needed that. I do think that this is a pretty good team. I just don't know that it's enticing enough of a roster for him to go. I think that they are, while better, much better than I thought they were going to be, I did feel like they were hitting right at their ceiling, to be honest with you, at least in terms of the players that they have now. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to give this one a 2. I think this one's pretty freaking unlikely, but I'm not going to say it's impossible. It's just pretty unlikely to me.
Yeah, I'm down for it too, as well.
Okay, all right, good. I'm glad we're on the same page. All right, we move on to Immortals. Now, I asked you to put this one on here, and I'm going to tell you why. I have heard that Immortals are going to potentially spend more money. Now, I don't know what that means, guys, because I think they were kind of balling on a budget last year. I think it was pretty obvious at that point. Spending more money could literally be like minimal upgrades for this team. I mean, they just were pretty horrible. So spending any sort of more money is good. And that could be completely wrong. Maybe they don't. Maybe they go full, NA squad of academy guys, right, to build up. I don't know. But I will say, if there's a dark horse in all of these guys, for some reason, the Immortals one is to me, because I think, Kenvi is, I think, going to be a lot better. He looked a lot better by the end of the year. I think he's going to be an interesting guy. And imagine what was once the top jungle prospect, coming up through the system with Bjergsen. That's an interesting pitch to him, I think, and something that you could potentially be like, hey, and we'll keep revenge on, because I don't know that there's a much better top laner, right? In terms of,
gonna be like, oh, you guys got revenge?
You guys are getting revenge, right? Yeah, no, I think, if you're not going to import, and I don't think they get Tenacity, and I doubt they get Soul, and maybe they get Bradley, maybe that would entice him, because he did probably play with Bradley. I don't know, something like that. But I think the angle to me is Kenvi. I really do believe they're going to build around him. And if you pitch Bjergsen enough money and say, hey, yeah, you're going to have to do one more year of a rebuild, but I think we're going to spend some money. We're going to get some other players around the team. Let's give it a shot. Because, if the whole, Spica, I don't know where Spica's going to go now at this point, by the way, as well.
He knows. He's just not telling you guys. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. No, I have my ideas based on his own social medias. But the other person in these social medias pretty often, and I'm just saying social medias is a joke. I know, Instagram and everywhere else. But, the other person that's in this pretty often is Bjergsen. So he's not on TL now. What does this mean? And I genuinely do believe that the jungler, I think, is going to matter the most for Bjergsen's next decision. It's not that he didn't like playing with Santorin, but they don't mesh. They've tried this twice now.
They've done it multiple times.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. And it's not that either of them are bad. Individually, I really truly believe that Santorin was probably the best player by the end of the year on that TL team in terms of performance. But, with that, there's a part of me that thinks this Immortals thing could happen. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't dove into the Immortals rumor mill as much as you have. I don't know. To me, this seems weird. I don't know why he would leave TL and go to Immortals. I don't know why he's leaving TL in the first place, obviously. Who knows? But it seems like TL, even if they do bring up the bot lane and stuff, that they would maybe have just as many, if not more, interesting young pieces as some of these other teams. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I hope Immortals gets aggressive. I hope they spend more. But I would be pretty shocked if this happens. I think everyone would. But yeah,
I mean, I'm gonna put this at a 4, 3 or 4. Not very likely, but I do think if there's a dark horse in all of this, they seem more like it to me than CLG, just because, again, I think Kenvi, young, inexperienced, top prospect jungler. I agree with you on your TL point, by the way. I would have put TL on here, even to start, but apparently he didn't make it seem like he had any intention of coming back. So
yeah, which is kind of strange, but yeah, give me a 1.
Still. Wow, giving you a 1, huh? I can't wait till we get that rumor Immortals talking to Bjergsen.
So, hey, it wasn't a 0, it was a 1.
It was a 1. All right, now we move over to the LEC, his homeland, his origins, a place he has not lived, I think, like permanently in what, 7, 8 years now, something like that. It's been a long time for the young man.
He's an American now.
He basically is, or at least he's been slightly converted. Mad Lions, I really would like, as much as I love Niski, and I really think that everybody did Niski dirty, like trying to blame all this stuff on him. He was MVP for a reason. This team did get drastically better, but he also exposed that it wasn't just Rieger that was the problem apparently in the spring, because even with him there, they still had some pretty major issues, specifically in the top lane. But I think if Bjergsen has the opportunity, again, to play with Elyoya, who I think is just severely underrated constantly. I also believe Kaiser is probably one of the best supports in the world. I don't care what anybody says. He was with a brand new AD carry. They still had things to figure out. But, like, if you pitch me a team of new top laner who's better than Armut, along with Elyoya and Unforgiven and Kaiser, I think that's a pretty nice pitch to Bjergsen.
Yeah, I think it's a team that, was fourth, and a team that you would assume, if you think highly of yourself, will be better than that with yourself on it. Yeah. I do think that this has just always been my critique of Niski. Like, yeah, it was ridiculous. I like him. He's funny. He's, entertaining, charismatic, all that stuff. He's a pretty good player. He is good enough to make your team good. And yeah, he came in and changed Mad Lions for the better, but still, I do not think he has had a single good, international performance in his career. And weirdly, I think this was one of his better ones. He had a couple decent games. Yeah, he wasn't bad by any means, but it depends how good you want your team to be. Yeah, do you want to be a team that's just making to worlds and being the third, fourth team in that range? I think Niski will always give you a chance to be that. He'll never be worse than that ever. But if you want to, maybe your goals are higher than that. I think Bjergsen is more likely to reach higher goals and lower lows than a player like Niski. So I think this would be fun, but I don't really think it's all that likely for Mad Lions to do something like this. One, because they just finally, they had the darkness of the spring split and they rose out of it, and they're gonna blow it up. I don't know. But then also, even after the success they had last year, they still got rid of Karji, got rid of Humanoid. So it's not like they necessarily go out and make crazy aggressive acquisitions. They kind of just roll with what they got for the most part, for better or for worse.
They find diamonds in the rough. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and Mac loves doing that, and that's what he wants to do.
For sure. And
for better or for worse. Not always for better.
That's true. What do you got then? What are you giving this?
I would say that this is probably another 4 for me. I think it's pretty low.
I got this as a 5 personally. I think
it would be fun though. I wouldn't mind this. I just don't think it's going to happen.
No, I think they just need to get top later. All right. XL.
Maybe he can roll some.
XL. Now, I'll let you go first on this one because I got a little bit of thought, but I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, when I look at the LEC teams, I think this is one of the ones that makes the most sense to me. Excel, I don't know how much money they're going to spend, but obviously they've gotten a little bit aggressive recently, because they got Mickey, who, he's not cheap. They also bought him out from G2 as well, so adding that on top, that's not cheap by any means. What I do think is going to hurt Bjergsen and his free agency is the fact that he is going to be a free agent at the same time as VTO, and I think a lot of teams like Excel, even if you think, they're going to have a mid lane position open up with Nuke Duck leaving or them kicking him or whatever the heck's going on, it's going to be tough. Who would you rather have at this point? Who's going to be cheaper? Who's going to fit in with your team better? All that stuff. VTO's younger. VTO just won an MVP. Bjergsen, who knows what you think of his level of play right now. But I do think Bjergsen to Excel would make a lot of sense. I do think they're going to have a mid lane opening. I think this team has very nice pieces around. Patrick is good. Finn was way better this year than he was last year. Mickey was, Mickey. He had his high highs and his low lows, but he's still a big name, exciting player that I'm sure Bjergsen would like to play with. The only thing to me is Excel, not one of these big popular teams, big brands. Bjergsen's been on TSM and TL. Excel seems to be a tier below them, which is why I think it's a little bit weird. But I do think winning is going to be at least from what I feel is going to be like the number one thing for him. And I think this team would give him a good chance to win, and possibly even be a realistic option.
And I agree with you, but I think it hinges, again, on the jungle. I think if Marcoon is there, I think the likelihood of him going to this team goes up dramatically. I think without Marcoon and without like a for sure jungler that you're gonna bring, I guess maybe they import Spica, first NA import to the LEC that I can remember, right? Maybe that would be enough, but I really liked Marcoon. I think he's pretty freaking good, honestly. And I think there's a chance that Bjergsen and Marcoon end up playing together, but not on XL. So I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna give this one a 3. I don't think this one is very likely. I just don't think they have the money. Like you said, I think they did spend a lot on Mickey, and I don't think he's gonna be all that attracted by Patrick and Finn. To be honest with you, if he's going for win right now, I don't know that's it for him.
Yeah, this is like a 7 for me.
Wow. Okay. All right. So we're on different islands here. I like it. All right, we're getting down to the last few ones. I forgot about this one. All right, we got Corp here. All right, Jeremy.
I had to rep for my people.
Right,
you got your Immortals in there. We get our Corp.
That's fine.
So yeah, Corp not currently in the LEC. Obviously, who knows what the heck's going on with Astralis and all that stuff. But I'm still wholeheartedly rooting for Astralis to be out of the LEC. Not only for Corp to come in, for anybody to come in. As a team, they were better last year, which I can at least appreciate. But as a brand, as an org, they're just criminally boring and I don't know, seem uninterested and all that stuff. So hopefully we get somebody in there. If Corp does come in, we've already seen that Corp has shown some willingness to at least claim to want to spend some money. Like they're maybe going to go after guys like Hansama or some other big name players. I mean, if they're moving on from Reckless, it's going to be for something big, not for, whoever in the ERLs or something. So I think it could make a lot of sense. Also, you're a new org coming in. You want to gain some fans right off the bat. Bjergsen could be a big way to do it, but a lot of things would need to go right for sure.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you here. I think if they got into the LEC, I would be willing to even go as high as like a 5 or 6 on this one. To be honest with you, I could potentially even be convinced to go a little bit higher because I think a new team making a splash, like bringing Bjergsen back to EU, the storyline would just be massive. I mean, they would talk about it for the first 3 weeks in the LEC without blinking an eye. That being said, though, it would take Bjergsen not getting a single NA offer, basically, and not getting he would have to be in the same situation as Reckless, where he kind of got screwed out of a spot, I think. That's, I guess, a story for another day, too. But I don't see that happening. I have this at especially without them being in the LEC, I have this at like a 0.5. Never gonna say no. Like it's not impossible, but it's about as close to impossible as any of these options.
To me, this is like a 3.
Ooh,
pretty low,
okay.
But I don't know. I still part of me think they're gonna find a way to get in. And then even if they did, I still think it'd be really unlikely. But yeah, not high, but fun.
Would you be willing to go to a 5 or a 6 though if they got in? That's the real question.
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
No.
Okay. All right.
Fair enough. 4.
I mean,
I might even be like a 2 right now.
But what if they kept Reckless there? I mean, that might help.
Yeah. That's a whole nother conversation. Are they going to do that?
Be ready for the channel after Corp gets it. Hopefully. All right. Moving on to our last one here. I believe it's our last one. Yeah, it is. Heretics. Now, I had to do a lot of research on this team. When I heard that Team Heretics was coming in to take over Misfit's spot, my initial reaction was, wow, that's a cool logo. Okay. Then I did more research and I was like, oh my god, this team is huge. Like, they are very, very big in Europe. And I guess maybe just most of the esports that they were in, I just didn't watch or something. But in the last few years, they have really turned themselves into something. I am very intrigued by what this team is going to do because I don't think they're going to keep a single player in that spot. Well, that's not true. I think they have one player for sure that they would probably want, but maybe two. But it's a very interesting team to me, and it's one that I think brings with it a lot of money, which is not something that a lot of these other teams we've talked about have. Clearly, they have a lot of money because they bought that spot. Full right. They didn't do the KOI, the Koi thing. They just straight up bought the spot. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, I from what I've heard in some of the statements that they put out, I've covered some of the stuff and read into it a little bit. I'm not excited about this team coming in. The only reason I'm excited for this team is Jack Spectra. I hope they keep him. I want to see how he plays, and I think that will be a cool story. But they've been putting out statements like, hey guys, we want to, keep our Spanish identity going into the LEC, and we want to, build up Spanish players. And I'm like, who is even a good Spanish player? I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, to me, man, that sounded like you're getting ready to, you're like easing the blow for when you show us some BDS type lineup or whatever. And that's just, I think, the track they're going to go down. I don't know why teams do that. I don't know why you spend $30 million on an LEC spot and then sign an ERL team. Yeah, I mean, it's about the franchise slot and stuff. But like, every statement that I've seen them put out publicly, which hasn't been a ton yet, and a lot of it is Spanish and translated a couple times over and all that, they give me the vibe that they are not going to be coming in and be very aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that, so I'm gonna take your word on it. And when I say that, I know that you're saying, I know that it's true.
For me.
I know that it is true. I know what you're saying is true. I just haven't personally seen it. So yeah, I mean, if that's the case, that definitely affects my rating, because my rating was going to be pretty high. I think, again, if you're a new team and you're coming in, and they should have money, I will tell you that much. Like, that was one of the things I heard about this org, because I'm pretty sure
that was my understanding about BDS too, is that BDS's owner has some money. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of the times when these teams come in, like, they just had that big, $30-40 million blow. So they want to, save a little bit of money in the first year. Yeah, save a little money in the first year or two.
You said more money? You need another mil?
You need another couple million? Okay.
Yeah.
But I will say this. I think if Bjerg approached them and was like, hey, like, what you guys putting together? And they tell him, hey, we've got a pretty good roster that we're going to put together. We're going to drop, 3-4 million on a roster. I think he would be pretty enticed to come over. But if you're telling me that they're not going to be spending money, and that to me means that they're not going to go for VTO, that means they're probably not going to even go for Neon. And I don't think if you have Neon in there, I don't know that Bjergsen's that high up there. I'm going to put this at like a 2 or 3. I mean, if they're not spending money, I don't think he's going to move all the way back to Europe. He does seem to like it here in NA for a team like that.
Do you know if is he Spanish by chance? Is there any, like, can we get a 23andMe or something?
Yeah, I'll work on that. I'm sure he's got a little Spanish in.
Yeah, can you DM him or something?
Yeah, I'll be like, hey, Bjergy boy, tell me about your Spanish heritage.
Yeah, for no reason, just no. Yeah, I think this is overall pretty low. I do think it would be a good idea for a new org to come in. But yeah, does Bjergsen want to even come into a new org? Does he want something that's been more tried and tested and true and that stuff? I think this is like a 2 for me. It would be fun, but I don't think so. To me, the ultimate spice in like super unrealistic stuff, the stuff we didn't even cover, is like if we do get the huge mid lane carousel of like if Perks becomes a free agent, and then you have VTO as well, and Bjergsen, you have like them bouncing all over. Like, could Team Vitality possibly open up? Like, every offseason there's some totally shocking moves. So I don't ever want to say anything's impossible, but like that's when stuff could start to get really fun.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, there's him being a free agent, I think throws a very big wrench into the whole equation for a lot of people, because I think
even if you didn't want to change your mid, you're like, oh, Bjergsen's available, and you start taking a look at your mid lane.
Yeah, you're like, okay, who are you again? Are you?
Yeah, we were gonna keep him, but like, I don't know now.
Yeah, I mean, again, I still think TL actually, maybe we should have done TL. I still think there's a small chance he goes back, but I don't know. That's very. It's an interesting market, because I think last year was a much better market for Bjerg, clearly. But I think it was going to be, even if he would have been a true free agent, not like, hey, I'm leaving with the intention of going to Team Liquid, right? Like, because that's kind of what it felt like ended up happening. I think he would have been a much more, it would have been a little bit more interesting. But I will tell you guys this. I am already hearing some things about where he will and will not go. I am very, very intrigued to see where this man ends up, because I think a lot of the rest of the moves, the dominoes are going to fall with VTO starting it off, I think, and then Bjergsen right behind him, in my opinion. But I think that there's going to be a jungler by the name of Marcoon or Spica. I think they might be our two best options. I'd have to check again, but I think they might also influence where he goes. So this is going to be fun. I mean, seriously, any of these teams outside of probably Corp and probably Immortals, honestly, have a chance at grabbing him, at some point here. And I mean, this is, I think, his most true free agency we've seen, because your top choice was 100 Thieves, mine was TSM. And I do still think those are probably the two most likely options, but I don't know, man. This is gonna be crazy for him. Very interesting free agency for him, to say the least.
Yeah. He'll get to talk some teams, and that's what's gonna be crazy too. Is teams are gonna have to pitch him what their idea of a roster is, or what their idea of the future is as well, and they're gonna have to be able to come up with some kind of interesting roster. Yep. And a lot of those teams, those rosters could involve some of the same players, and we're gonna get into potentially some of that type stuff, and it's crazy. But then wherever they go, maybe then that team's mid laner becomes available, or that team's jungler. It could set off this chain reaction of craziness, which maybe we're rooting for a little bit.
A little bit of chaos, baby. Let's do it. Let us know below again. I mean, where do you guys think he's going? I don't really know that anybody knows right now, and that's what's very fun about such a high-profile player being on the open market. All right. Make sure you check out the video that's going over Germ's face right now. Then check out the video that's going over my face right now. And from our house to yours, I'm Rob. He's Germ. We'll catch you on the next one.
Peace.